All right, traders, welcome to today's recap. This is Christian from Hertz Tribeca Trade Group, and it is, what's today? Today's Tuesday, so still beginning of the week. Today's December 17th. So just a reminder, we went over this in the pre-market session at Tribeca Trade Group, but next week we have, so full week, of course, this week. Next week, Wednesday is off, it's Christmas. Also, Tuesday is a half a day, right? So for Christmas Eve is a half a day. Just a quick reminder, just so that we know what we're dealing with for next week and going into the end of the year. Let's talk a little bit about today's price action. Theme of the day, digestion, I would say, for the most part. Just really, I think, after as much as the markets have been moving with momentum, they need to probably digest a little bit. In yesterday's video, we talked about how the relative strength index, the RSI, and the SPY, as well as the Qs, got into overbought territory, over 70. So what I look for the markets to do at this point, and again, my view is I want to see this market kind of continue to go up for as long as it can kind of swing up here. But what I don't want to see us really do is get super overbought in the short term. So you could see just today, by us going a little bit sideways, S&P futures, you could see the RSI, which is on around the bottom of the screen, is a 68. So we're off those levels, and it would be nice if we can kind of just stay a little bit under the radar of overbought. So that's kind of my thought for the day. I actually want to see a little bit of digestion, and I wouldn't mind personally seeing a little bit of a move down in the market, just so it kind of shakes things out a little bit, right? It kind of shakes out some of the weekends in the market. Remember what happened here, right? And during this week, right? This was a great shaking out of the weekends. People were kind of buying at the wrong time, right? When the relative strength index on the S&P was over a 70, and they kind of got it taken to them for this week. So I wouldn't mind, and I think that's why you just want to be a little bit careful with your positioning, because I think my prediction, if we do get another pullback like this, is probably buyers will show up again. But I think it's just when we're kind of grinding like this, when there's less momentum, there's going to be less trading opportunities, for day trades. We'll still be able to kind of to find them and so forth, but the opportunities will be just a little bit less, right? When we're in this grind mode and volatility is not ticking up. So that's why, and if you've been a trader for a while, you learn to kind of welcome a little bit of bouts of volatility, because it shakes things up and it gets things moving a little bit faster, and there's more trading opportunities. So that's kind of what I'm looking for. And I said this yesterday, I'm not out of the market. I'm kind of just trading some small things in here. Like the trade that I put on yesterday, for example, we'll jump right into some trades here that we did. But I mean, I put this trade on small, right? I got into Amazon. We kind of saw that at the end of the day, right, where it kind of held up pretty well, Amazon, right? And then Cohen put out a note this morning, and sometimes I love notes, like analyst notes. Sometimes I don't, right? Sometimes when I'm in a name, it's great because you get a little bit of momentum. You get that tailwind when there's a broker note, especially in something that really hasn't been in favor for a while, which is kind of like Amazon is. It's a different story when a broker note comes out and you get down. There's a downgrade, right? Then I hate the broker notes, but for now, so what am I looking at in this name? So I did take one target. Again, this is a small trade, but it's an easy way. Like call spreads, I think get neglected. You could put on a nice like this week's or next week's call spread, and the beauty of that is you're not committing as much capital as just going outright the call. So if you're looking for like a quick move, I get shaken out really quickly. Like if I were just to buy Amazon calls and they cost like $8, even out of the money, it's really tough to kind of stay to buy, first of all, a lot of contracts, because it's a lot of money, right? And I don't like to really spend that much money on a short term, betting on a short term move. But I'd like to participate, right? So Amazon, so I was able to take one target, and then maybe I'll look to take the second one off. No, that's CMG. Where's my Amazon? Oh, I took this right off the bat, 530. So now I'll look to kind of see if I can get full profits or close to full profits on the remaining piece of this. And then the other thing that you could do is you could start rolling it out and up if you think Amazon has more to go. So let's go into the chart here for a minute because again, this stock did something different today. What the market flat, Amazon closed basically on the highs today. I see resistance coming in at 1801, which is still another $11 higher and would work really well for my call spread. The thing that kind of drove me to the stock yesterday was we saw a little bit of option activity in it, but it got above value, right? So once it gets above value on the 1 hour and on the 5 minute, it's kind of like open game a little bit, right? It becomes the path to least resistance, which we saw this yesterday. We closed right around here yesterday, so we got a nice day. And it actually, previously, we've seen Amazon bounce in the morning and then like give it all back. So this was a little bit different. We actually closed on the highs today, so nice. So I would be looking for a little bit of continuation. And, again, the value areas can give you a nice guide. It doesn't mean Amazon has to stop here. But you could see you've got top of value and you also have the 200-day moving average. But it would be fun if this stock gets going again, wouldn't it? All right, so let's move on from that one. Let me go back to just the theme of the day, digestion. Again, I think that was the case in the major indices. Interesting, the small caps actually outperformed, which I think is a pretty good sign. That was your best performer, finished up about roughly 0.5% for the day. The rest of the averages, were within 10 basis points of being flat. You can see I've got TLT highlighted here that finished down on the day. Gold, silver still a non-factor. VIX actually finished up a little bit. That's fine. Let the VIX. I don't really want to see the VIX go to 10. So that's okay with me. Oil and gas names, and then let me talk a little bit about today's option activity. We probably saw option activity in a couple different names that are a segment of energy. So MLPs, right? And we saw this, I would say, about a week and a half ago. We saw a lot of AMLP calls go up, pretty far out of the money stuff, like calls being bought for like 10 or 15 cents. Well, we saw that again today, and we actually saw some activity in a few other names. DCP and MMP are both. So if we break apart and break into this MLP ETF, AMLP, and if we bring this in here, right, you could see that EPD is the biggest name, which we also saw what I believe was rolling of calls. But you can see MMP is in there, and then the other name is further down, DCP, also call activity. So you can kind of take your pick. Again, these charts are not going to be that appealing, I don't think, but they're close to getting back, like EPD, which is the biggest weight in here, close to back to the 200-day moving average. MMP looks like it did sell off. But in any event, keep your eye on this space. You can see the volume here is picking up a little bit, and that seems to be where they're going after calls in the energy space right now. Right? There's a little bit of like XOP calls as well. So we'll see. We'll see if this group can carry a little bit. Let's see. Where did XOP finish? Again, XOP, if you're not familiar with this ETF, it's one of the best proxies I think for energy because it's equally weighted. Oil and gas names. So notice it did get above the value area. So it's still in a downtrend. It still has some work to do, but maybe you can see a further bounce up to the 200. And it did get back up here at around 24.77. So I think that's interesting. And again, if you look at the stocks related to oil, now again, there's oil and gas names in there, but let's just look at oil for the time being. Oil is doing a lot better than where it was, back here, and we really haven't seen that much of a bounce in the energy stock. So it's got me intrigued. I did put on a little bit of EPD today, just so I have some exposure. Again, I don't want huge exposure to energy because I still think it's going to be a difficult trade. But if we're seeing a lot of call activity, I will participate. Retail also did pretty good today. Look at retail up 1.2% for the day. So that's a little bit different. I was seeing a lot of retail names on my screens today. And also the regional banks, I think, being helped. So let's look at these two charts for a minute. KRE, the regional banking ETF, it has a virgin point of control that's coming up here. You could see right in front of it, and then there's another one, but still pretty depressed, right? And I think it could have a decent way to run. XRT is kind of a hodgepodge of retail. I think it's better to pick out individual names in here. But a couple names that I saw today: Restoration Hardware. Notice it had this big bounce after earnings. It's been pretty hot. Well, it's cooled off a little bit. It's into the 20-day moving average. Also, a few other names that I saw today: Williams-Sonoma. Looks like it's close to wanting to break out. Also, I guess you would call this retail, but Peloton, got all this into this trouble, a lot of trouble because of the commercial, right, and a lot of press. But I guess any publicity, as they say, is good publicity. Maybe in this situation, but the thing that we talked about earlier in the room. Now, I did not take this trade. I just could not pull the trigger on this one. But look at how this thing is kind of held value. A lot of support here at $30, and notice how it's moving higher. All right, and then one other. I wouldn't say that this is retail, maybe more just consumer discretionary, but Chipotle moving out of this consolidation. It's been a slow mover. It's been one that you've had to be patient with. This is a tough one to trade in options and stock because it's an $832 stock. But what I did was I'm long a few calls, weekly calls in Chipotle. Again, you could see my trades right over here. And that's it. I mean, I really did not do, even though I've got some trades listed here. I think PayPal, I've been wanting to buy PayPal, but I would rather go after it on a red day, now above the 200-day moving average. So your stop on this one this is a chart that you've probably seen me go over a couple times in the last few days. Well, today I pulled the trigger on it. I didn't want to chase. I would rather buy it on the low of today, which is basically around the open of yesterday, rather than chase at yesterday's highs. All right, so we will leave the video there for the day, but that's your option activity for the day. A lot of small things. There's a few other things, but it was a pretty quiet day in terms of option activity. Obviously, everything that we're going through is for information purposes only. By the way, underperformers, biotech, home builders, which keeps getting broker downgrades, which I don't really understand. I think the housing data has been terrific. Now, unless they're saying that this is peak housing, which I don't necessarily think that it is, but look at the numbers that came out for housing starts and building permits. I mean, this is I believe the headline was strongest building permits since 2007. So again, I don't think it's peak. I think there's really strong demand out there. So take a look at that. That's pretty interesting, isn't it? Let's see. Does this go back any further? Maybe if I click on this and go max. Yeah, there's where it was in. Yeah, so they're right. It's back to 2007, but it was still much higher then. So they're continuing to underperform. I'm sitting with a long ITB trade, and I'm being patient with it, kind of trying to add to it here and there. Software also underperformed today. Again, I think that with the trade stuff, I think you want to be a little bit more picky and choosy with software names, but again, that's just me. All right, guys, that's it for today's video. A little bit shorter one than usual. Have a great night, everybody. See you back in the trading room tomorrow. Have a great night.